Hey makers. So we're going to do something a little bit different with this project. We're going to use a website called Mecabricks.com. Now what this is going to let you do is it's sort of like a 3D design or a CAD program, but it's really meant for Legos. So if you take a look here, what I did is I went and I found an old classic Lego set that I had built when I was a kid. I just did a Google search for instructions, and you can see that this website has some instructions. And I went ahead and followed this in Mecabricks, and you can see that I came up with that ship as well as a little vehicle here. So two things that you can do. You can do what I did, and you can find a building instructions that you might want to follow and try to recreate it, or you can try to create something out of your own imagination. So when you do this, here's basically what you're going to do. You're going to go onto the mecabricks.com website, and I would advise creating an account. It's free. You don't really have to provide much personal information at all. And it's going to let you save online, which means you can do 10 or 15 minutes at one point, and then you can spend 30 minutes in another point and be able to access your files without having to do it all at once. Once you've created your account, you're going to want to go to the workshop. So if I click on the workshop up here at the top, I'll go into the area. Now, if I left click, I can orbit my camera. If I right click, I can pan my camera. And if I wheel up and down, I can zoom in and out. So this is going to feel similar to some of the other 3D design stuff that we've done in the past. What you're going to see at the bottom is you're going to have all the bricks that you have available to you down here. And I can change the categories by clicking here. So I can go and find beams if I'm going to do something like that, and you can see the categories change. I can change this to something a little bit different. So if I go back to my bricks, I can click on this arrow, or I can wheel to kind of see some different categories. Notice that some of the bricks have a plus by them. If it has a plus, that means there's subsets of those. So I can click on that brick, for example, and you can see that I have all these bricks now with the different logos and stickers on them. That you can see some that I use from the models here. So just be aware of that, okay? And you've got all these different categories. Also be aware that sometimes when you do this, so let's say I go to the brick sloping so I can get the ramped ones, I might scroll down and I might not see the one I'm looking for, but I see this plus. That means there's more bricks available, so I can click on that plus and load up even more. So if I'm looking for that reversed ramp, there it is right there. And I've got all these different bricks now that I can choose from. When I want to pull a brick out, so if I want to bring this reverse one out, I can just click on it and it will bring it out into the set for me. I can move it around using the arrows, or I can have more free reign by clicking on one of these squares. And I can also change the color. So right now it's this weird yellow color, but if I wanted it to be red, I can switch it over to red. So I double click on the item here, click on the red, and now I've got a red brick. If I click off to the side, you can see that. Note also that I've got some different kind of coloring. So if it was a transparent brick and I wanted it to be a blue transparent brick, now it's a blue transparent brick. You can kind of see through it. All right. So be aware that you can go ahead and change your colors here. You can also click on the legacy colors to get some of the old-timey ones if you need to. Whatever it is that you want to do, whatever color you want. Now, if I want to build on top of that, I can go ahead and choose my next brick. So maybe I'm going to choose a 2x2 here. Now, if I just click on this, it's going to appear in the center, kind of like that. So if I don't want that, I can delete it. What you might want to do is these are kind of snap points here, these circles. So if I click on this snap point like that, and then I click on this brick, notice how it's going to build it on top of it like that, okay? It's going to come in at the same color as what I chose the last time. So if I need to redo the color, I can always do that at some point. Now, you might have trouble finding a particular brick you want. So if you know what that brick is, I might do something like bracket, because I'm not quite sure where to look for that, and I can see all these different brackets that are going to pop up. And so this is sort of the classic bracket that you see in a lot of old sets. So I'm going to click on that. I want to add that in. So one of the things that I can do is I can snap it directly. So if I know that I want this face here to snap onto this right there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that circle so that it's highlighted, and then I'm going to click on this button here, and it says select a snap point. This is the snap point I want to snap it to, and you can see it's going to mount it right there for me. Otherwise, what I'm going to have to do is I would have to spend some time rotating it and trying to get it into place. Now, if I do want to add another item you know, I can click on the snap point and I can click on my bracket like that. But let's say that I want that rotated. If I click on the arrow buttons, I can rotate them around different axes. And if I can't get it on the correct axis that I want it rotated on, up along the top, right here next to local is this circle. If I click on this, this will allow me to rotate it on any axis that I choose. So I have complete customization and control over how I want these things to be able to start being snapped around and placed. It will move, and then I gotta click on this button back here to move it back. It will move in thirds, so that if you have flat pieces, you'll be able to do that. And you can choose the axis you want to move on by clicking on the arrows. And again, I would rotate your view around by left clicking and holding and dragging so that you can kind of see what's going on. And again, a right click's going to pan like that. So if you wanted to start create your own thing, that's basically what you need to do. You can click on here, delete, delete, and I can get rid of these. Now let's say that you want to build something that is already been made, the set maybe you built when you were younger or something. I found this old instructions for fire set here. And so what I would do is I would go to my first instruction, and basically this is a 16 by 16 plate. So what I can do here is where in my search I can type in 16 by 16, and you can see it's come up with a couple of different options for me to choose. I don't want to do it, it tells me what it is here. I don't want to do one with a road, so I'm just going to do a regular 16 by 16 plate and bring that in. And what I've noticed here in these instructions is that it's sort of a dark gray. So I'm going to take off the legacy, and I'm going to choose a dark gray here as my color. So now I've got my dark gray plate. And then I can go into my next instruction, which says just to find these two little flat pieces. So the flat pieces are a plate. So I'm going to go to plates. And one of the things that I'll notice when I go to plates is I don't really see that particular piece. And even if I click on, well, this doesn't even give me an option to click on this. So what I'm going to do is instead of looking at plates, I'm going to look at plates and notice that there's one called special. And if I click on that, here is exactly what I'm looking for right there. So I'll click on the top of this plate and I'm going to click on this guy right here. And you can see that that's now loaded in. I want to change it to black. And I want to take a look, and I notice that it's in these two corners here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it over and down like this, but it's facing the wrong way, so I'm going to hit the right arrow twice and get it faced the right way. It's still not quite in the correct position, so I'm going to move that in the correct position like this. Now, all I have to do is I want to just duplicate this. I don't want to have to bring it in and bring it back to the middle, so if I press D on my keyboard, that'll duplicate it, D, and then I just slide this over and put that into position. And now I've got that first step made. I can go and take a look at my second step, which is to add these two red 2x2s. So again, I can either go, I know that's a brick, right? So I can either go up to bricks and I can just grab a 2x2, so there it is right there. So I'm going to click on the top of this plate here and click on my 2x2, and I'm going to make this a red 2x2, and then I can just slide that into position, just like so. And then if I take a look at what the other one is, it's in the corner right there. So I can hit D for duplicate, and I've got a second one now, and slide this over into position. Okay. And then we just keep on finding the parts that I need. So this is kind of an interesting groove. So this is probably for like a garage. So I'm going to take a look and see what we've got here. We're going to look at probably bricks and maybe brick special and just see if they're in brick special. And if not, we can type in garage and see what happens and see if we get anything special here. So we got the garage doors. Those will come in handy later on. But again, this is just sort of the process. Probably the hardest part is to find the actual pieces that you want. So we kind of scroll through and we can take a look and see what our different options are until we actually find it. So we can look at brick special. And maybe what we'll do is type in groove. So we do have a single groove here that we can use, so we can bring that out, put that into position over here. And if we take a look, it's going to be a gray color, so I'm going to switch that over to gray. And then I can just duplicate that and pull it up, and just keep pulling it up until I get it to be the right height. I can also duplicate it from here and slide it out over this way. And then rotate it with my right arrow or left arrow, and then again duplicate it and drag it up. And I can start to get my garage doors ready, kind of like that. Okay? And so again, we just go through the different steps until we get everything that we need, building all these up until we come up with our thing. So a couple of other things that you can do here. You can, when you're ready, I can always go up and do File and Save, right? But when you're ready to create, let's talk about pivots for a second. So when I come over here, I can go, there's some functional elements that I can choose from. And so, for example, this functional element is a hinge, so I can bring that out. And it's going to put that in there for me. I'm going to raise this up. Now, I want this hinge to appear to be opened, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click just on the top hinge, and if I press the up arrow, it will raise it up. Notice that it kind of slides it into the wrong position. And then if I try to move this, it just doesn't connect in the right spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control Z and undo that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change its pivot point. So I'm going to click on this right here, and then this is the pivot right there. So it says select the pivot point, and I want it to pivot right there. So now when I press the up arrow or the down arrow, notice that it is in the right spot now, okay? So that pivot point can come in handy. And again, see how it reset the pivot point? So I'm going to click on this again and choose my pivot point to be right there. And then I can open that hinge up and it will pivot on the correct spot. So that's the pivot point. We've talked a little bit about the snap, right? So if I know that I wanted this piece, for example, to come up on top of here, I could click on the bottom of my piece, click on the snap, and then click on the top of that piece and it'll snap up to the top. I might need to move it and slide it into the correct way if I need to. Again, Control Z is going to undo that and I can put it back into place. I can always click on something and delete it, okay? So just click and hit delete on my keyboard. If I click on the arrow, I've got some other different things that I can sort of work with. I can group things together as well. So let's say that I want this to be grouped with all these, or maybe these just to be grouped together. So if I hold down Control, I can click on different elements and notice that they're all now selected and I can move them together, okay? I can also click on here and turn these into a group, and you can see that that group just showed up there. I've got some options here, so if I want to rename this or something like that, I can call this, garage door, and now that'll be called garage door, okay? And I'll be able to move these around if I need to all together instead of just as individual pieces, okay? I can select just individual ones as well if I want to and move them if I have to, all right? Or I can select the garage door over here, get all the pieces at once and move them all together at once. So for a situation like this where maybe you have to build something separate, you might want to do that, group it, and then put it down. Or this isn't too hard to do, so you could just build that straight up, okay? Again, file, save. When you want. I've had some issues with this site crashing from time to time, so it wouldn't be a bad idea to do that. Finally, when you're ready to turn this in, you're going to click on the camera button down here. It's going to take a snapshot. Okay, just right click on this, do save image as, and save that, and then attach it to the assignment and click on turned in so that I can see what you've done. If you have any questions, let me know. You can email me, or if you want to ask for a Zoom conference, we can do a Zoom conference and we can walk through whatever issues you're having. Have some fun, good luck, and we'll talk to you later.